Everyone relax because it is Sunday, June the 15th, and this is Two Guys, One Cup, an AFL adjacent podcast. My name is Will Anderson.
And my name is Charlie Clausen. And Will, I apologise. Your mic's a little hot. I think you could maybe just knock it down.
Oh, you want me to turn my mic down a little?
But it is appropriate that your mic is so hot because the Bulldogs were certainly hot on Thursday night. Congratulations.
Good link. I appreciate that. That was great. That we are a podcast that absolutely is not professional enough to go back and reset the microphone, even though we were 30 seconds into the podcast. We're just like, link it into the content. The Bulldogs were also hot.
The Bulldogs were hot. So you have retained the Two Guys, One Cup. But if I may, if you can indulge me, I'd just like to take a moment now to speak to Saints fans. Do you mind if I just take a moment to editorialise?
Mate, I would love nothing more than you taking a moment to editorialise.
Okay. Hi, Saints fans. It's me, Charlie. Well, here we are again. Another season where finals are off the table and what seems like an excruciating number of games still to go. There are 7 stages to grief: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and hope. I'm at acceptance because what other choice do we have? And I'd like to offer these tips to help you cope with the rest of the season. 1. If you're not attending a game, check the result before deciding whether or not you'll watch. Your hope has been crushed already. No need to repeat the dosage within a game. 2. Always watch Ross Lyon's press conferences. He always makes me feel better as the season continues to nosedive, and there's more than a slight likelihood of him sparring with journalists to deflect from our results. 3. Write to Nat Wanganing Malera and pretend you're a little kid who's offering him all your pocket money to stay. If it worked for Chris Grant, it might work for us. 4. Enjoy the fact that even though we suck, we may have 4 players in the All-Australian squad by the end of the year. 5. Give yourself permission to go back through our last 10 years of drafting and trading and laugh. Laugh. There was a time where I honestly thought a spine consisting of Luke Delaney, Hugh Goddard, Luke Dunstan, and Paddy McCartan was going to guide us to our next flag. And lastly, when all else fails, look at that photo of Rui, Lenny, and Joey's kids all playing footy together and think what might be in 5 to 6 years' time. But just take care of yourself, Saints fans. All right,
Okay.
I'm back.
All right. So, firstly, I assume that everybody at home will be able to hear you talking over that song. But what I need to let you know is I could not. So for the last 3 minutes, I have just seen you mouthing a bunch of words where I was trying to work out what you were saying. I think there was a list at one stage. You might have been listing things. I don't know what you were listening. You were on a real roll, and I was like, you know what? Charlie's probably got this right in the actual mix of the podcast, and it'll all be fine. So I don't need to stop him and wave and say, I can't hear this. I can wait until the end. But also, it was so funny to me because you see it represented in pop culture so often when someone starts talking and then the music comes up loud and drowns them out and their mouth is just going, but the music is playing. And the fact that music that was drowning you out was the sounds of silence. The irony of the moment I was living in was not lost on me, Charlie, despite me not hearing any of the, I'm assuming, good points that you made.
It wasn't a message for you. It was a message for Saints fans. It was a survival guide for the rest of the season.
So are you suggesting only Saints fans will be able to hear it? You're assuming everyone else can hear. There was just something going on that I could only hear the music, right?
I think everyone will. I mean, I'll definitely be able to make sure that everyone can hear it because I'll have all the files on individual tracks.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Good.
So we guarantee that people will be able to hear this. But the message was for Saints fans. I don't know if it really would hold anything for you, but it was weird because I said all season, and especially the last few weeks, that I'm okay with where we're at. But then you just get a stark reminder of like how bad you are and what is in front of you. And it's like, oh, we're there. Like, I think the club's been sort of subtly telling us that this is where we are, but we're supporters. We're optimistic by nature and, especially Saints fans. And then because that team we put out on Thursday was not like a team of kids. That wasn't our draftees. We had a couple of kids, but that was our top flight senior players. And It was so ordinary. It was so ordinary. It was, I talked about what you missed was the 7 stages of grief. And that was the moment of acceptance for me where I was like, oh, okay, this isn't even depressing anymore. This is just the way it is.
So, look, the Bulldogs, well, I think like we beat you by 71 points in the first game and it was 72 points in this game.
Yes.
So really, you're pretty much at the same place you were early in the season if you measure it on that, which, so
I would suggest
backwards.
Even better because you didn't have Sam Darcy for the first game. So the fact that we kept the scores relatively the same is actually an improvement.
Yeah, that's true. I think that the Bulldogs are one of those teams that, well, I mean, I think this is the year where Bevo's bottom boys is going to be most tested because so far it seems we can only beat teams that are under us on the ladder.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a flaw in the bottom boys system. Like if you're only going to be able to beat teams that are under you on the ladder, you have to finish first to be able to win the grand final. It doesn't work quite as well and as effectively, but we are a team at the moment that if you are one of the weaker teams in the competition and you're having a bad night, you don't want to run into the Bulldogs. Now, does that mean the Bulldogs will also be able to do that against the top echelon teams, like to beat them, not just to compete with them, but to be able to beat them? I don't know. But what I do know about this version of the Bulldogs is they love, like, I think with the Bulldogs, the big thing is always like, is the bottom 6 good enough, right? The top end players are clearly good enough. Are the bottom 6 Bulldogs players good enough? And you know when they're good enough? When they're playing St Kilda. They love, that's the night when those guys who every third week aren't good enough against good teams, they come out to play and go, oh no, this is our time to shine.
That's where, okay, might be the fatal flaw in Bevo's plan. What he should have been doing was both keeping the Bulldogs at a bottom boy level, but also somehow behind the scenes, like helping Ross to get the Saints to a grand final and then ensuring the Bulldogs got to play the Saints in said grand final. That's what he should have been doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not beyond him. I'm starting to think that
he's got Saints blood in him. John Beveridge was our recruiter for like 30 years or something.
Yeah, right.
He worked at the Saints. He played for the Saints. He worked for the Saints. Bevo's got some red, white, and black in his blood.
Are you suggesting, though, that this might be some sort of prestige like long con situation, that they've been planning this for 30 years and like Beveridge had to go here and there just to orchestrate like a St Kilda Bulldogs grand final?
I'm still saying the Dogs win the granny. I think Saints fans would be wrapped with the grand final appearance, after the last couple of years.
This season.
For this season, yeah. But I think Bevo's still a Bulldogs man. I don't think he's trying to trick anyone, prestige anyone. But
what I'm worried about, obviously, at the Bulldogs is Bontempelli still hasn't signed his contract, even though, like, everyone in the world is
too busy playing video games, mate. He's too busy playing video games with Cripper and Andy Lee.
You know what he might be too?
That's a weird combo of celebrities, isn't it?
Advertisements.
Why is Andy Lee in the mix?
The Switch ad.
Yeah.
So. Well, here's your ad, right? Like, so for people who have not seen this ad, it's Patrick Cripps, Marcus Bontempelli, and Andy Lee. And they're all playing. One of the features of the new Switch is obviously that you can all sit in your own living rooms and play games together, like Mario Kart or whatever it is that they're playing in this game. Is that right?
Yes.
And so... Firstly, we looked at this in a Gruen meeting and I had to explain to all our New South Wales staff who these people were. They were like, who are these people? And I'm like, well, that guy in the middle. They said the guy in the end, he won the Brownlow medal last year with 45 votes in a record for the competition ever. And the guy sitting next to him is better.
But the vagaries of Aussie rules football.
What I loved the most about it was everyone at our meeting was like, oh, isn't it amazing how like all their houses look like exactly the same, the couches, and I'm like, mate, that isn't their houses. This is all one house that they've hired for this shoot, and they've just shot it in different rooms.
Just turn the camera to face 3 different walls.
Yeah, it literally looks like the same house. Like 100%. You know how you 3 could all play this video game together on that same couch in this same house where this is all being shot.
Well, that's the other thing, because normally when people play, and again, I'm not a gamer, but when they play like one of those video games, they're normally wearing headsets and stuff so they can talk to each other. These guys seem to be talking to each other, but with no technology.
Oh yeah.
They're just talking and rail. What is one to say, like rail grind or whatever? Are they just? Are we meant to believe that they're just that vocal that when they play video games they talk out loud to no one, or is there some sort of like suspension of disbelief that they're talking and they can all hear each other through the ether?
Is there something in the new Nintendo Switch where you can like you don't need a headset?
Might be.
I mean, that would be amazing. That would actually
Yeah.
almost get me interested in
It's
the
a
idea
strange
of.
design
So sorry,
flaw.
the question I was going to answer,
Yeah.
was about why is Andy Lee in this
Yes.
house, right? Firstly, Andy Lee, very popular character. But secondly, I feel to go to something we've spoken about a lot. This is your Colgate scenario played out again in a meeting. We've got Patrick Cripps. We've got Marcus Bontempelli. They're going to be playing a game against each other. Who loses that game? Neither of them is going to agree to. They're too competitive to be the loser, the one who's on every ad losing this game. Who do you bring in? Andy Lee. Because everyone's like, Andy Lee can afford to be the guy who loses in this scenario because everyone knows that Andy Lee has absolutely won in life. So he doesn't lose. He's a clown. He's a comedian. He can be the guy who loses. He gets the great association with his fun life is like playing video games with Marcus Bontempelli and Patrick Cripps. So he wins out of the ad. It doesn't matter. But you'll notice in that ad, Andy Lee is the person who loses the game.
Yeah, but that means, but they don't both win. Someone came second. So either
Doesn't
Bont
matter.
or...
They're not getting into that though, are they? They're getting into the fact that Andy Lee is a loser
Who
and has to
won?
do some sort of punishment.
I want to know who it has to be Cripper, right?
Bont would have won.
I also think too that Bont, with his like expansive acting experience now, would probably
He's everywhere.
Yeah,
we are living in Bont world.
But I think if it was a similar to the Colgate scenario where they're like, hey, listen, we're going to go out to a couple of big, some of the guys you might know, another big AFL player, but one's going to win and one's going to lose. And I reckon Bont with his acting experience now would be like, you know what's a more challenging part? The loser. Anyone can play a hero. It's not as interesting. I want to sink my teeth into like, what's the motivation behind this Bont losing this video game? This guy who, has excelled in everything else he's done in life. And, a Brownlow's eluded him. And even in this safe world of the Switch, you can't even win there. Like that's some rich material for me to work with.
What you're saying terrifies me because like this is, I've thought so much about, because obviously everyone's saying about Bont's contract. They're just like, don't worry. He always leaves his contract late. No one's worried about it. It's all going to be fine. It'll resolve itself. And you'd absolutely imagine that they wouldn't have re-signed Beveridge if, like, I'm not saying Bont would want this power, but I bet if you're the Bulldogs, the first thing that you do before you re-sign Beveridge is go down to Bont and just say, how do you feel about this, right? Like, you've got to run it by him. So Beveridge re-signing, you'd think you mean, okay, that's good. Everything must be in place. Everything's going to be fine. And Bont's brand is such that he is known as being maybe the greatest Bulldog of all time already, but he's known as such a loyal, good guy, like a responsible guy, a Bulldog. So your brain is just like, I just can't see for his, for other people in their brand or whatever, you go, you've got to go and play at a club that, so what would be the reasons you go to another club? Money? I can't imagine there's an amount of money that he gets somewhere else that the Bulldogs wouldn't match to have him stay at the Bulldogs. He's captain of the club. You go for success? Well, the Bulldogs are as in the mix as anybody else is when it comes to success. He certainly hasn't been starved of that in his career. That, like, what would it be that would motivate him to, like, other players might go for those things, but he would only harm his reputation and his market value and all those things. Like if Bont went to another club, right?
Yeah. I think what Bont is looking for in his next contract is that the Bulldogs have to bring an improv group to the club for him to rehearse with on his off days from training.
Just some like acting related.
Yeah, I think he wants an improv group with a kind of.
So you're feeling like Bont maybe isn't like holding out for an offer, like for like
football,
how many years he's going to play
football.
At Marvel Stadium. He's waiting for an offer from Marvel.
Yeah,
to say,
exactly. Give me a place, give me an occupation.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's applied to a bunch of acting schools around the country and he's willing to play AFL for whatever team Like maybe if he gets in a whopper or whatever.
Oh my God, that's why he's holding out. I mean, there are Bulldogs contacts at Freo.
Oh no.
He gets taken to Freo,
Simon
goes to Whopper.
Garlick's got him a Whopper audition.
Judith Cohen University. Well, Edith Cohen, I should say.
They've whacked Tim Minchin on the under the soft cap in the coaching staff to lure him over to the West.
I don't mind that ad, but do you wonder if there is an NRL like facsimile out there, where it's like it's Hamish, Blake, and 2 NRL players? I honestly cannot think of 2 NRL players off the top of my head. How bad's that? How myopic am I?
I think it's okay to. You don't have to be across everything.
I'm not across anything.
We don't have time to be across football, and we're okay with that, right? Like, so let alone another code that we have. I mean, Cooper Cronk. No, he hasn't played for about 5 years. Dale Cherry Evans.
Andrew Eddinghausen. Glenn Lazarus.
The big chin guy.
Big chin.
From Penrith.
Oh, yeah. Rex
Cleary.
Rex Cleary. Mossop.
I don't believe there is. So I don't know why that would be. You would imagine that there would be an NRL one, but I don't believe so far there is.
Hey, speaking of ex-Bulldogs players or people who have left the Bulldogs, we was sort of speculating last week about, what was this Bailey Smith, Andrew Dillon meet up all about? And more details apparently came to light through Caroline Wilson, who I'm not sure how solid her sources
Had a rocky week for details.
Yeah.
You know what I like about that?
Yada, yada, yada. That's Caroline Wilson in the details.
I've enjoyed Caro's staunch defense of, and she might be right, by the way, because sometimes Caro is either behaving in a way that is completely obstinate and won't admit that she's wrong, or the way you would behave if you were absolutely sure that you were right and you weren't going to back down on your story, based on it, right? But I love that just at every step, they're just like, his manager said this. She goes, what would his manager know? His manager's never met him. Well, he denies it. Who's he? What would he know? He's got that memento disease. I know, and only I know.
So she was speculating about that meeting. And because we were saying, was it club driven? That maybe the club's like, hey, Andrew Dillon, come down. But Andrew Dillon and Bailey Smith both went to the same high school. Bailey Smith's dad's an old boy. Was probably went to school with Andrew Dillon.
This is how we do it. This is more like it.
So this is more of that kind of private schoolboy, old boy network coming together. So that makes heaps more sense, right?
This is the AFL way. Let's get it done properly.
That's right. Leave it to the rich, privileged white men of Australia. We'll sort this out.
I think you'll find this was secret white men's business.
I actually have decided that, I admire the Cats, and they obviously they were the other big demolition job of this round. But
yeah, that's so good.
I just want a new storyline. If I'm going to be, if the Saints are out of it, I want and the Bulldogs. I feel like I can get on board the Bulldogs story because you're my friend, and this has been a sort of running gag. But where's the new story? Is it the Suns? Are they the ones that we can get by? Is that the fairy tale of 2025?
Crows?
Yeah. It felt like a round, though, where order was restored. Hawthorn beat the Crows.
Is it GWS?
The Cats win.
Do GWS have this period in the middle where it doesn't work, but they suddenly start to get their shit together again at the right time of the season? They were, the next best team or one of the next best teams, if not the best team at the right time of the year last year. They've still got a heap of good players and some others that could come in. It could be GWS.
Yeah. I don't know, Will, but what's going on here? Oh, hang on. So I try that again. I don't know, Will, but do you remember when GWS were bad?
Yeah.
Do you remember when everyone was saying, oh, they suck, they've lost the tsunami? Then one win, one young forward comes out and kicks a bag, Jesse Hogan kicks 6, and everyone's like, oh, they're great again. It's like, what is going on?
Well,
I said us at the stage of acceptance. Maybe I'm still in anger now that I think about it.
Well, what do you think if you had to sum up what this season is about at the moment? What's
Mm.
your vibe on, like, what is the shape of the storyline of this season? What does it feel like to you?
I feel like, to me, it felt like, okay, I'll tell you what it's like. So, in the wrestling, about a year ago, when Triple H took over full creative control of the wrestling, it felt like it got super exciting again because The Rock came back and he turned heel, and Cody Rhodes finished his story, and then John Cena's turned heel and stuff. But then it started to look a bit creaky. People have started to sort of like look at this House of Sand and go, oh, they've made some big calls and like promised some big things, but it feels like we're just going back to regular programming. The same people are still winning. It's the same kind of matches. And I feel like that's sort of what's happened in the AFL. Like it felt like at the start of the season, oh man, like things have gone topsy-turvy and Adelaide are playing great footy and here come the Suns. And now I just sort of feel like settling a little bit, and it's just going to be Geelong and Collingwood. Geelong, Collingwood, and Hawthorn will probably get in there as well, I imagine. I don't know if there is any, apart from the Suns and maybe the Dogs, if they do a bottom boys run, I can't see. I mean, Port Adelaide won today. They're now just like 2 games out of the 8. So is that the storyline? Like Port come with a rush in the second
Can
half
you
of the year,
imagine?
and hang on,
Like
I accidentally, I've got one of those electronic desks, and I pressed a button, it went up. Sorry,
that was some
I
real
apologize.
Chris Fagan in the early days of using Skype on AFL 360, where like
it's
his
happened
phone
again,
would
Will.
slide down the desk. And I
My
was like,
desk
oh, I've
keeps
lost you,
moving.
Jared. Oh.
All right, I'm back.
I think that in the season of hot takes, we started the season off kilter in general. Like it was too, everyone wanted to try to immediately work out who'd done it and what it was going to be and predict what it was going to be. And there was no sort of natural rhythm to letting some of those things play out. And then we had the weird start to the season. So the ladder's never been entirely correct. And it's felt like that set the agenda for how the season would feel, where we'd never quite know. And maybe that's the joy of this season is this is the who we don't know who done it season. Like maybe this is the like one where you're like, oh no, it's definitely this guy. It's because there's
Yeah,
that's why I feel like
this is the white.
already.
Ironically, it's the White Lotus season.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay,
You're like, all right, well
You got your
they all
suspicions.
could do it. Heaps of them could have done it. Who did do it?
But don't you reckon last year was more of the White Lotus season where they all could have done it, and this season
No,
feels
because
a
all
little more...
season it was like Sydney did it. Like that's one of those ones where it's like a
But they
big
didn't.
twist at the end. But that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
I'm saying. Like is
Right.
for the entire season, you were like, well,
Yes.
definitely the person who did it here is Sydney. And then at the end there was a twist. But that's more like his Sixth Sense style, like, you know,
One big
like,
reveal.
yeah. Whereas this is more like one of those, you know, like a Knives Out style scenario where you've got like a cast of characters that you meet, and then you suddenly realize, oh, hang on, any of them, given the, you know, opportunity, has a motive to get this done.
A good point is any to do a vibe check. Let's start with the top 8 wheel, starting at number 1.
On top of the ladder is
by one game, which seems counterintuitive considering the game by.
Okay, but Collingwood is 1 game clear on top of the ladder.
Yeah, and haven't even played this weekend.
You're right. What am I talking about? It's unpredictable. It's Collingwood. Collingwood are going to win.
Collingwood and Geelong.
Yeah, right.
Very right, snug. Right, 1 game behind them is Geelong.
Shut up.
Then after,
really?
After that,
is it Collingwood Geelong?
That's what I'm saying. It's like I've read this fucking book. It's real dumb.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I was talking about. All that, just disavow everything I just said before. This is so obvious.
All right, who's in 3rd position?
All right, this is harder.
This is where it gets interesting. 3rd down to 5th is I would not have guessed, considering the kind of form. They're not in form, this team, and they're still sitting 3rd.
Is it Brisbane still?
It is Brisbane.
Yeah, okay.
They're half a game behind the Cats, 6 points behind the Pies. Then in 4th position, again, not winners this round, but somehow in 4th.
Did the Pride of South Australia lose this weekend, or did they win?
They did. The Pride of South Australia, the Crom, in 4th position, despite losing.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
and then the team that
feel,
beat them.
I mean, that feels weird too. What
Yes,
you just said.
none of this makes
like
sense.
that doesn't feel like a thing that can make sense.
All the interesting stuff is happening underneath positions 1 and 2, but
Okay,
none of it makes
Yeah.
sense.
If you
It's
ignore the
just-
two obvious contenders, the rest of it's quite interesting.
It's just a mess. Okay, so Hawthorn, who beat them,
Uh-huh.
they're equal on points, but a fair whack of percentage behind. That's the other thing is
They seemed
percentage is going
gone
to be
2 weeks ago as well, Hawthorn. Remember? Hey, Charlie.
wait a minute. Wait. No, okay, I've got it queued up. Go.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Hey, Charlie. Do you remember when Hawthorn were no good? That people had worked out hockball and they probably weren't even going to make the finals. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Do you remember how hard I would be? Remember when Jack Gunston used to play for Brisbane? And he's still fucking playing well for Hawthorn.
Hawthorn.
Like Jack Gunston could retire as one of the most like under the radar all-time greats. 4 premierships, like however many goals, like 400 plus goals, 300 plus games. Like that is a fucking career that any other club would be a Hall of Famer for sure. But he may not make it to Hawthorn's fucking like honours board.
I mean, look, to be honest, he might make it to Brisbane's though. So
Do you remember when Brisbane like was starting the season unbelievably for a reigning premier? That they were redefining what a reigning premier could do. They were just winning games, even if they had to grind it out, they'd win. Now they've lost 4 of their last 6.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. I've got no idea what's going on.
No, okay. So that's 5th position is the Hawks. Okay. 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'll make it a bit easier for you. No Victorian sides.
No Victorian sides in 6th, 7th, or 8th. So the GWS Giants.
6th.
No,
sorry.
The
7th.
The Gold Coast Suns.
6th.
So Brisbane was 7th, and then in 8th place, the Fremantle Dockers.
How easy is it to forget that Fremantle exist? They've won 4 in a row. 4 on the trot, Will.
Flaky Freo.
Flaky Freo, 4 on the trot.
So they're doing the flakiest thing of all, not being flaky.
I saw, what's his name from Tame Impala was in the rooms after the game. Was his name Parker? Kevin Parker?
Because if it was anyone else from Tame Impala, who cares?
Yeah. They're good though. They're look, I think they have found their groove. Do you remember? Oh, no, I'm not going to do it. But remember when Justin Longmuir was going to get sacked after that Saints game?
Do you remember when there was no role for Nat Fyfe to play in that team anymore?
And that is another thing that I feel like we've been missing.
Yeah.
I mean, Nat Fyfe, he's so beloved on this show, and we used to like devote like fan fiction to him, and I've forgotten he hasn't been around for 2 years, and then just to sort of see him, like you love it. This is if it's the the samurai movie or the cowboy movie or whatever. This is the old grizzled veteran, maybe doesn't move as fast as they used to, but wily. That's Nat Fyfe now.
Yeah,
that extroverted introvert.
I enjoy the idea that like midweek he's not training. He's like living on a beach somewhere, just surfing,
tapping his crypto card at a beachside cafe.
And then like a helicopter swoops down, just gets him on a rope ladder, and he kind of flies into the ground.
I'm actually just looking at a picture of Nat Fyfe right now. This is on AFL.com. Yeah. It's the front page of 6 Things We Learned. And he is remarkably shredded, like getting to Bailey Smith territory in terms of muscle definition, vascularity. There's a lot of shit going on. Do you reckon that Nat Fyfe, who was once the hunkiest player in the AFL, has seen Bailey Smith come along? He's like, well, I'm not going to beat him on the track, but I will beat him in the 6-pack.
Well, because I mean, obviously one of the more iconic images of Nat Fyfe is that shirtless photo of him with the Brownlow draped around him. And he might have just been looking at how well Bailey Smith has been going for Geelong this year and thinking Bailey Smith might win the Brownlow medal. And if he then recreates that photo, no one's ever going to remember Nat's photo anymore because of Bailey. I mean, it's the ultimate. I mean, that's what we could see at the end of this. Is what the Andrew Dillon meeting's about. They've already got they've been
washboard
in a meeting and they've gone, we're going to break the internet when he wins the Brownlow and he does a topless Like he's had a big night on the nose beers, and then he does a topless shoot the next day with the
Well, that's
brown line.
good. You want to be
He's gonna-
dehydrated
that's
before
right. He's
a
going to look
topless
amazing.
shoot? Skin's going to be so tight around those abs.
He's going to have a 32 pack.
You're talking about Caroline Wilson before, and who her sources are and stuff. I heard a bit of a conspiracy about this round of footy. So you didn't see the Hawks Adelaide game. It happened down in Tassie, and it was a night game, and it was a very ugly conditions, very greasy, very wet, very cold. And the final score was like 47-44, Hawks way. So it wasn't a lot of fun to watch. And I've heard a rumor that the AFL deliberately scheduled this, because Tassie games only happen during the day. They scheduled this one at night in prime time as a kind of like, see, this is why we need a roof.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That's exactly what they did. There's no doubt in my mind that that is the case. Like, of course. And I think it's the right thing to do.
But do they communicate that to the clubs? Like, do they say to Adelaide and Hawthorn, hey, we know you guys have, you've got a game scheduled for Tassie. We want to use you as a rod to beat the Tasmanian government about the temple with.
Yeah, look, you have to play down there, but if we'll give you $10,000 in your soft cap for every time you mention Dewey in one of your press conferences afterwards. If you could just, like, literally every time you mention Dewey conditions, how hard the ball is to handle. One of the weird arguments, I mean, I think they absolutely need a stadium with a roof. And I just think if they're going to do it, I can look, Tasmania get to make their own decisions, of course, right? But I do believe that the best way for it to be super successful and them to recruit great players to want to play there and get tourists to want to go and visit it, etc., is going to be to have a stadium with a roof. And often I hear people be like, "Oh, well, what about the MCG or whatever? There's no roof on the MCG." And I'm like, "Yeah, because they're not building the MCG from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Like when they built Marvel from scratch, they put a roof on it. Like it's not. This is not away from the playbook of what you should do. Put a roof on it.
Yeah, and also the idea being that this isn't. The idea is it's not going to be just for footy as well. There's going to be like concerts and other events and all that kind of stuff. It's funny too because who did I see? I think it was Jack Revolt because he's on the board, right, for Tassie or something. And so he was being interviewed on one of those panels, and they were saying to him, if it came down to it and the stadium gets scuttled for whatever reason, would you be okay with them playing at one of the existing grounds until they can build a stadium? And he was just absolutely, no, not at all. That's not what we agreed to. That's not what was promised. And in my head, I'm like, well, it makes kind of sense. You play somewhere, get the community, so you don't let the community down, get the team up and running, and just sort of treat it like GWS in the first couple of years where they didn't really have a fixed address. They were playing in sort of suburban grounds and stuff.
But I think they're going to have to do that regardless. So even because the schedule of the stadium is not such that they would be able to, but they've got to lock in that they're going to do it. I think they'll still end up playing on those local grounds, etc., for the first few years, regardless, because the stadium's not going to be built. But could they do that ongoing? I never watch neutral Tasmanian games when they're on the telly, well, or rarely, because I just don't think that the games are of the same standard, and I don't think that. I mean, of course you can do it in the meantime, but I think that you need to.
You've stated this before. You are very you want roos over everything. You hate watching football that's like some people love old fashioned footy. It's a bit wet, it's a bit slippery, low scoring.
You know where you can get that? I don't know, like fucking suburban football. Everywhere else is where you can get that. Outside in the rain.
Well, all right. So they play and they're going to have to play and train and all that kind of stuff in the existing grounds. What happens if the builders they hire to do this stadium are the same guys who do GMHBA? Where it's like, oh, we forgot to put a stand in. Oh, no, we're going to need another 4 million. Sorry, guys. Could have built another stand.
I think that they would be rapt to have the success that GMHBA has, where they keep needing to add more seats to the stadium.
That is actually a good model, though, for how you're going to attract players down there. You sell that same kind of away from the big
Yes.
smoke
South
lifestyle.
Geelong, I'd call it.
Would you?
Well, that's how I'd pitch it to them. I'd say, it's like, mate, it's not Tasmania. It's South Geelong. It's basically South Geelong, mate. It's just Geelong, you keep going a bit.
Well, I think every player. So, I mean, if the Bont, I know he's loyal and will probably stick around and stuff, but like players like Nisaya and all these other players, Zach Butters, who are yet to re-sign, you'd be crazy not to sign like a 2 to 3 year contract, right? And just see, even if you don't intend to leave, just see what crazy fucking money they're going to be offering in 2 to 3 years' time.
What if Tasmania, if the AFL just said, like, we need this to work so desperately that whatever Tasmania is willing to offer the player to get them down there, we're willing to like ignore, like, so you can like name something after them or like, give them a share in like, the old kind of like you can buy them a Hungry Jacks or whatever it is, that sort of vibe, but like something specifically Tasmanian.
Yeah.
What could Tasmania put together as an offer to say, like, say they go, we want the best player in the competition, a guy we can build a franchise around. We're going to go to
Sam
Bontempelli and we need to, like, well, okay, Sam Darcy, that's fine. Yeah, we'll go to Sam Darcy. What does Tasmania offer Sam Darcy in order to get him to go down there?
A Cadbury's factory and a Cooper's brewery. Cascade, sorry. A Cascade brewery and a Cadbury factory, minimum.
Yeah. Do you like chocolate and beer?
Yeah. That's just to get his interest.
Yeah.
And then a shit ton of money. I mean, I think it would be, well, look, people who are from Tassie, especially footballers who are from Tassie, when you hear them talk about Tassie and what they love about Tassie, like they are very impassioned. Like if you read Nick Revolt's book, the way he talks about Tassie, and I think he's got a few properties down there and stuff, but the places he goes fishing, where he's got his beach house, all this kind of stuff. That's what I think you got to sell them is you can own all of this coast. Like the entire East Coast, North Coast, whatever. You can have it. There's four coasts. Or no, there's three, right? It's more of a triangle shape. There's 3 coasts in Tassie. You can have one. The entire thing. Do you think?
So one of the things with the changing of the temperature in the oceans and the and climate change, one of the things that is said that one of the safest places to be, the best climates and temperature is going to be New Zealand, but also is going to be Tasmania, right? Like, and people have been buying up property in Tasmania because thinking it'll be a good place to be able to live if the climate changes substantially. Do you think that would be in their best interest as a club to get like a professional climate change scientist in some of the recruiting meetings? Just to
show some modeling of like sea rises.
This might not feel like a good fun time now, but if this modeling is correct, we're not getting to these targets, and this is actually going to be a great place to play.
I think so. Yeah, just a bit of alarmism. Climate alarmism.
Brisbane, it's going to be 60 in Brisbane. Enjoy playing in Brisbane, mate.
Hey, one thing we should do, Will, is there is a game in progress. We haven't done our 2 guys, 1 kiss of death. It's almost halftime. The Blues are 46 points up on the Eagles.
46 points up.
Yeah. Blues don't lose from here.
Yeah, no. Where is it at? Is it in Western Australia?
Carlton, famous for never losing in the last quarter, for never getting up to massive leads.
46 points though. There's just
against the bottom ranked team too.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to lock that one in for the Blues.
Yeah, I'm locking it in as well. Almost at halftime. All right, let's get to the mailbag. If you want to get in touch with us, you can. 2 guys, 1 cup AFL at Gmail, or go to everyonerelax.co and you can send us a message that way as well. Speaking of Tassie, this is from Jordan. It says, Saints to Tasmania. Sorry, Charlie. But what's wrong with the old school expansion style of breaking up the Melbourne-centric competition and expanding by moving teams? Keeps 18 in the comp, doesn't dilute the talent pool. A handful of Saints fans can still go to games when they come to town. The Devils-Saints combo. White Saints-based kit at Marvel, Devils at home and interstate. Is the Revolt connection. Potentially solves the roof problem. Just play Tassie during the day, then do night games at Marvel. Also, the lid's off for this Cats fan.
Daryl Baldock, right?
Daryl Baldock is a Tasmanian. Ian
Yeah.
Stewart,
Like
David Grant. We've had a lot of
proud
Tasmanians.
Tasmanian connection at the Saints.
Yeah, definitely. We actually started the Tasmanian experiment before Hawthorn, and then Grant Thomas chucked a hissy fit and pulled us out of there. Then Hawthorn go in, get themselves an extra 20,000 fucking members and turn it into a fortress.
Can you
Tale of two teams, Will.
Can you dock the spirit of Tasmania at St Kilda? Like, is there capacity to be able to like
St Kilda Pier? It normally is. Or it's more Port Melbourne, isn't it?
Yeah, Port Melbourne.
We just ram it. Just ram it into that little pedestrian jetty with the restaurant.
Jump
the
on.
one at the end of the one near Luna Park.
On. just
like
over to the game.
Like a deadbeat dad, just rock up the cruise ship, come screeching up to the pier and yell for people, get on quick, hurry up. Honking the horn. Get your asses in here, there's a game on. How long does it take, the Spirit of Tasmania?
I don't know. No. Are you going to Google it or should I?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Yeah.
Because how would you feel about that? Because I've got to be honest with you. If the Bulldogs were like, oh, yeah, we've got to like move to Tasmania. This is like the only way for the club to survive.
Mm.
I wouldn't mind that. I reckon I'd happily move to Tasmania, support the Bulldogs, live down in Tassie.
It doesn't look. It's not the worst suggestion. No. I'm not against it. I'm like I said. I think I'm at the point of acceptance, where it's just like, yeah, sure. You want to relocate? Just do it. I don't even really care about like changing the name. Like, just call them the Tassie Devils. Fucking why not? Why not? No. 11 hours, 9 to 11 hours to get to Hobart from Melbourne.
I mean, there is something in the saint and the devil thing that like works. It's that two-sided part of the personality, right? Like good and evil. I don't know. It's compelling. And I feel like
what they should, the Saints and the Devils, if they merge, because you're right, it's the two polar extremes.
Yes.
One, good and one evil. Would it just become the Humans? Does that become our mascot? Just like the human, just a naked, like Da Vinci's, like man diagram. That's our logo.
I mean,
and then the women have the women one.
Would you take Ross? How would Ross go in Tasmania? I think I feel like he's got.
Yeah, I mean, he would. That'd make him king of Tasmania. He's such a Tasmanian.
I think he would thrive in Tasmania. He's got like a real, like if you've seen their quirky advertising, that dark mofo kind of, Mona vibe. Like I reckon Ross would revel. Like, can you imagine? At the moment, he's like weaving in, maths and White Lotus into his press conference responses. But imagine if he's like, I was just down looking at the wall of 100 vaginas at Mona today. And I was thinking they are all different. Like football players are all different.
This letter came in from John Bailey Smith at Geelong. Hi, Will and Charlie. First time writing. Love your work. You always make me laugh, especially when you talk Geelong. He wrote a rapid Cats fan. I'm assuming he means rabid, unless he's very quick.
I mean, Bailey Smith is a rapid Cats player.
As a rapid Cats fan with my own podcast about Geelong called The Chaps Chat Cats, I can say that Bailey Smith is doing everything I wanted from him. Getting 30 plus disposals a game and going about 60% efficiency is perfect. You were asking this last week. Yeah. Yes, his kicking could be better, but otherwise he's a star. Go Cats. I don't think there was any. We all knew he was a star, but it was like, is he a Dangerfield star where he does all the explosive stuff? And
I asked, are you happy with that? Is that what you needed? Because like sometimes that is what you need.
Yeah,
60%.
It is funny though. They do have.
He's having a good season if he's going at 60%.
This is from Michael. He's got a suggested rule change. The posts are not part of the score. What other sport in the entire world is the boundary or the border of the scoring area counted as part of the scoring?
It's true.
You don't get points or goals if you hit the goalpost or crossbar in soccer unless it deflects into the goal. You don't get points from hitting the ring and it bounces back in when you play basketball. So why do we count it in scoring in Aussie rules? If it hits the post, what happens next should be where it deflects, i.e. if it bounces back into play, it's play on. I mean, I do love that. I think that would be exciting. The only thing I'd miss would be the overdramatic way the goal umpire pats the post. Yeah, that is pretty. I never really thought about that. It's adorable, isn't it? They just pat the post to make it feel better.
I've got a way that can solve all our problems. It's pretty controversial,
Yeah.
but
No goalpost at all. The players kick it wherever they want and decide if they've got a goal. Honesty system.
What I think is that when it comes to other sports don't do this, I think we should always lean into that rather than away from that because, our sport is not like other sports. And I think one of the charms of the sport is that if you hit the post, you get like a point, right? Like I like that. However, if it bounces through, it should remain how it is. If it crosses the line, it should remain how it is. We do how it is. However, if the ball hits the post and bounces back into play, it should be play on. You should be able to play on. But I'm going to add something. You should get a point if it touches, if you kick it into the post. So if it bounces back in, you should still get the point, but it's still play on. So
okay, oh yeah, cool.
So it bounces
like
off the post back into play. You get a point. The goal umpire still gets to pat the point post. We still get that charming and adorable moment, but also it's the opportunity for a 7-pointer. Like imagine going into the last few seconds, you need 7 points. So what you need to do is kick it into the goalpost, bounce it back into play into someone's arm so that they can kick a goal to get 7 points.
I love that. Is that every post it's worth? So if you hit the behind post, is that still worth a point or is that still out of bounds on the full?
Yeah, interesting. Don't know. I feel like that might be. What do you think?
I think keep that the way it is. Just make it the goalpost. Yeah, because I love that.
Yeah, just the goalpost.
So, you know, the Kangaroos Freo game, which seemed to be all over in the third quarter, and then the Kangaroos came with a rush. They were 6 points down with like a minute 30. That's exactly the kind of play you'd want to see happen. Is like, do we go? Well, because the only way to win is to do the most difficult thing first, which is to kick it into the post. I love that, Will. I think that should be the rule.
What about the temptation? If someone was like Jack Ginnivan style running into an open goal instead of throwing the ball, like to kick it into the post back to yourself and then through, but then you've got that can go wrong, right? That's the ultimate in showboating is like, I'll go for a 7-pointer, but of course you can fuck it up by kicking into the post and then getting.
Oh no, he's kicked a goal.
Yeah.
But I love too the idea of like the alley-oop, like, you know, in the basketball, the backboard alley-oop where you throw it off the backboard. So, you know, you've got like Bailey Smith streaming into goal. There's a player in the goal square, but he sees Jeremy Cameron coming in from on a 45-degree angle. And he's like, am I good enough at 60% efficiency to blast it into the goalpost and get it off at exactly the right angle? I mean, Nick Daicos could do it. Yeah. Nick Daicos is probably the only player who could do it like predictably every time.
Yeah, Nick Daicos is like, oh, finally, I've been waiting for this.
All right, well done, Michael. That's a good rule suggestion. Well, we've decided, well, we didn't decide, but we put it out to the listeners to come up with some contests that we wanted the coaches to take part in so you and I could decide who would win. This came from Rodney. Could Two Guys One Cup hold a grand final week competition where the coaches do a hot wings challenge to see who can handle the heat?
Oh, yeah.
Everything we've had so far, I feel like Chris Fagan is the first one ruled out. So I feel like we need some more suggestions in which, like, what kind of contest is Chris Fagan winning?
Well,
lawn bowls.
Adam Spencer did suggest, I think, Wordle. Asked who of the coaches would be. So I reckon, because if you had to do a Wordle, like a little, like, you know, game, like a word game, I think Chris Fagan probably would be pretty good at a word game.
Do you think he's such a simple fella?
Yeah, but that's your simple fella area. Like, do your little connections in the morning or your Wordle or whatever. That's your, like, you know, that's your general sort of keeping your mind a little sharp.
But what do old men love doing? What do they excel at?
They like a puzzle, older men.
Chess in the park.
But this is what I'm saying. Wordle is a version of chess in the park that you can do. Yeah, well, not racism. Like,
no, he was cleared, wasn't
I think legally, not racism. Yeah. That's the one thing we can rule out. But maybe Wordle.
Hot wings, though. Back to the topic. So who's winning a hot wings challenge?
So
who's out? I don't think Ken Hinckley's never eaten anything that is not meat and potatoes.
I don't
Ken
want.
Hinkley, he doesn't do spices.
No, I don't think he's a spicy guy. I think he just likes the Parmigiana as it comes. Like,
I'm going to put an early prediction out and say Adam Uze, probably a good chance of winning this.
I don't want to be this guy, but I feel like Bevo wouldn't want to put his new teeth through a hot wings eating competition, you know? Like,
Stains.
yeah. Like all those like hot sauces seem to be like, I imagine you
They do
get some sort
stain.
of warning of like, keep these away from like, that's going to cost you a
veneers
fortune,
and stuff.
right?
So
Like,
you reckon he's excusing himself from the
yeah.
hot wings challenge?
Yeah, I
Okay.
reckon he'd make a philosophical point about, like there'd be some point about like chicken wings or something that are like, or maybe that wings don't get recognised in the All Australian team. like he won't eat wings in a hot wings eating contest until proper wingers are picked in their positions in the All Australian team.
All right, so who's the winner? So Uze, I think, would probably have some experience with food that's a bit more spicy. Dean Cox reckons he could put some away.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't think you're.
I think if it was a
scaring off of Dean
volume
Cox
competition, like how many can you eat? I think Cox.
But I think
be
that
a man.
comes into play. Like when you watch Hot Ones, whenever he has like an athlete on or whatever, they're kind of the bigger guys. Like I think they are. Their bodies can handle more punishment.
Yeah.
So I think Fly would be terrible at this. He's too sensitive.
Yeah, I think Fly's out early. I've got to say.
Ross Lyon, I could see. Ross Lyon would be one of those guys. Have you ever seen a Hot Ones where someone is like completely unflappable? Like they just don't react at all. It's almost like they're an android. I could see Ross Lyon just, this one was it? That's the bomb, is it? Yeah, interesting.
No,
yeah. So what do you define the bomb as?
I see Ross getting to the end and not realizing
7,500 Scoville.
I think that it's more that Ross will get to the end of it and not realize that it was meant to get hotter. Like he would have missed the whole point of the exercise and just at the end, like eating all the wings and going, well, I did it. And then like, that wasn't the point of it, Ross. The sauces were meant to be getting hotter. You know what's getting hotter this season of maths.
This came in from Simon. Hey guys, just watching the Two Guys One Cup and heard a BT say the ball got bont on the noodle. Yeah. Is that a thing? Is this a thing? As in the Falcon is as in Falcon is a term for getting noodled. I mean, it's funny because the incident he's talking about is Marcus Bontempelli fell forwards onto the ball and landed right on his penis.
Yeah. I thought that he had said doodle. But did he say
that
noodle?
Makes more sense because noodle generally refers to your head anyway. Oh, you twisted my noodle.
Yeah,
I met your brain.
I mean, I did not see this live, but I saw it reported. I thought that BT might have referred to Bontempelli's doodle, and I was like, keep my captain's doodle out of your mouth.
Out of your mouth. Did you hear about what happened to Logies? Who went up and just slapped BT for no reason? Last bit of mail here is come in from Jacko, who, in a very timely manner, has said, lads, I love this show. It's the only pod I listen to for AFL Media. I'd like to raise awareness about the latest Nintendo Switch 2 ad featuring Marcus Bontempelli, Andy Lee, and Patrick Cripps playing the Mario Kart game. I'm not sure if these guys have a video game history, but one of them shouts barrel and proceeds to run into an on purpose. What does that mean? Is that a game thing? But one of them shouts barrel and proceeds to run into something on purpose. I think he's just missed a word.
Okay.
The Bont wins the race, therefore forcing Andy Lee to bow to him on webcam.
I told you that the Bont won the race.
Okay, so Cripper was happy. See, I thought the Bont would be the one taking the second role. But Matt, Cripps is a kind of selfless guy who's used to being disappointed. Yeah. So it does make sense.
Or maybe it's a bit more like Cripps, like
kind of in lose, but what's almost losing?
Well, maybe it's like he's won 2 Brownlows and like Bont's won none. And so he like in that scenario is like, you know what? You win this, we're even.
Yeah. So do you think it's a similar situation regarding Colgate ad with Heaney and Petrarca? Yeah, so we've covered this quite extensively. But I'm shocked. I didn't pick up on you saying that Bont wins. I'm surprised by that. But you're right. It does kind of make sense.
Yeah.
That
because no one's thinking about Cripper being the loser because he beat Andy Lee. Andy Lee's the loser who gets punished in the ad. We're all focusing on Andy Lee being the loser of the ad that we're not. This is your classic. They've learnt from Colgate. Like if in that other ad, if there was a third person there, if like Petrarca, like he takes the mark on Petrarca, but like also Celeste Barber's there doing a dance. Like,
all right, that is Two Guys, One Cup for this week. Hey, if you want to support what we do here at Everyone Relax, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/everyone relax. We put up full videos of these Two Guys, One Cup episodes. They go up early, straight away, Sunday night on the Patreon. Plus, there are ad-free episodes of all the other shows on the Everyone Relax feed. Will, are you touring at the moment?
I am.
What are you doing?
Big ones to mention are Wynnum Fringe and the Sydney Comedy Store, which are coming up in the first week of July. But I've got a whole bunch of other gigs, comedy.com.au. Plus, if there's anyone listening in Montreal or who have friends in Montreal.
We do have Canadian listeners.
Yeah, that's true.
We do have Canadian listeners.
But also, if you just have mates who like live in Montreal or might be near there, I'm going over for the festival. So the details are at comedy.com.au.
And we'll be back again next week, but that is it. Play on, not 15.
No.
Little 40 loving dickheads, dreaming about a Premiership Cup. We love our clubs, but they never win. 2 flags in 100 years. The shit house. If you think we'll be insightful, clever, or just well researched, we're here to say that's not the case. We'll just go out and wing it. We are 2 guys.